It's time for What's Hot. We talk about stories that have all of us talking.
We're joined by communications consultant Ben Merens, plus Jeff Wagner is back. A Houston father shot and killed a 17-year-old boy after catching him in his daughter's bedroom. Police say the daughter snuck the boy into the house, but when the father walked in, she claimed she didn't know the teen. At some point, there was a fight, and the father shot and killed the boy. Should the father face charges?
Well, this is going to be a tough one. I mean, sometimes in these cases you have clear-cut situations where it's self-defense. You wake up in the middle of the night, there's an intruder in the house. This is a much more difficult situation. I think you really got to know a lot more facts, especially like what's the teenager, what's the daughter doing saying, hey, I don't know who this guy is. This is one where it really, I think, could go either way.
And you know, Jeff, the whole tragedy of this, and you're right, it could go either way. The daughter never should have had the kid there, obviously, but when she did, she should have admitted who he was. Ultimately, though, the responsibility is with the man who had the gun. You would think that somehow he would be able to deal with this kid in his house without having to shoot him. And if he had to shoot him, you could have shot him somewhere that would have been fatal. So there are a lot of mistakes here, but mostly I think it falls in the hands of the dad.
Well, I think also, I mean, I think it's tough to figure out what do you walk in on. Now, when I first heard the story, I thought, okay, do you walk in and is the guy on top of the girl, stuff like that? That doesn't necessarily appear to be the case. No. He was apparently hiding and things like that. But you know, the lesson, and this comes out of story after story we hear about how people on all sides of these issues make these decisions, and then they end up being life-changing. They just never think through the consequences, whether it's the father, whether it's the daughter, whether it's the third person. You got to think this stuff through.
Well, the big question in my mind is, what did the daughter lead the father to believe? If she acted erratically, that this person was in the house attacking her or something like that, then you know, what we don't know is what happened in that conversation and how ramped up the daughter got the dad.
And the way the news is reported, the daughter didn't say she was being threatened. She just said she didn't know who he was. Yeah. And that makes no sense whatsoever, which the father should have caught, in which case the gun seems pretty unnecessary and very tragic.
Yeah, definitely tragic, no question about it.
Of course, there's an emotional aspect to that too, and when it's your home and there's a stranger in it, of course anyone can understand wanting to protect that space, and we certainly hear about shootings like that all the time.
Although if somebody breaks into the house and my daughter sees this stranger in their room, she's going to scream, and that didn't happen here.
All right, we will leave that topic right where it is. Coming up, we're going to reveal the viewer's choice topic of the day. And
Brian Goddard is back with another look at your forecast. It's a lovely one today, at least. Enjoy it while you've got it. More of what's hot and our viewer's choice topic of the day.
Again, we're joined by Ben Merens and Jeff Wagner from over at WTMJ Radio. Today's viewer choice topic: education experts suggest that schools should stop suspending students for minor problems. Researchers say removing kids from school leaves them further behind academically. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with this. I think, you know, to me, back in the day when I was going to school, I mean, suspensions and expulsions, that was the nuclear option. I mean, you really had to do something bad. Now I think you see this, now I appreciate you got to have discipline in classroom and stuff, but I think there's ways of imposing consequences and discipline without taking kids out of school, which in many cases is precisely what they want in the first place. So I do think you need to be more circumspect about this.
Jeff, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think on top of that, we've learned enough to know that the kids shouldn't only stay in school, but we should give them something to do in the school as part of what would be, I don't know if it'd be their punishment or corrective action, but have them either clean floors or help tutor other students, but do something that will enhance their character and not let them out of school, because they're going to have to make up the time they miss when they do that, and that hurts everybody, especially the kid.
Whatever happened to staying after school? Well, you do something wrong, so instead of saying, hey, you're going to get 3 days off so you can sit around and watch TV or whatever, not watching TV, but you know, whatever happened to that, as opposed to, okay, you got to stay 2 hours after class in the study hall, or I like your idea too, clean chalkboards, do whatever.
Well, we can't do chalkboards because there's no longer erasers. It's all dry erase. But we can have them do things that would be a lot more beneficial and educational than sending them home and suspending them for minor infractions.
Right. The big question, though, for administrators seems to be, what is the impact on other students, and have they done something that will create a distraction in the classroom, and how far do you go with staff resources to occupy the student that's in trouble, and where does that go too far?
Well, you do know that this is going to be a little extra work because the good kids don't need as much help in the disciplinary aspects of it, but that sure doesn't relieve the administrators and the teachers of the duty to raise the bad kids too and make them good kids.
All right, well, let's move on to our lightning round. A routine trip from Philly to Florida became a terrifying ride for passengers. A tire on the front landing gear blew during takeoff. The plane skidded to a stop, nose down on the runway. A passenger took this selfie picture after the crash. Has the selfie gone too far?
Oh, I don't know. I think she walked off that plane. I think she gets the right to do whatever she wants, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's just that if this was her way of releasing stress, that's okay with me.
There's two things going on here. If you saw the video that she took of it, she's clearly panicked. Yeah. And the experience of what's it like, because we all wonder when we fly, what would it be like if we crashed and lived? She did, and it wasn't a terrible crash. The picture, though, I'm teaching communications at Marquette. She'd get a C- for the photo because the plane needs to be centered, and it wasn't. She's certainly front and center, but it's not a great picture.
Okay, here's the question, though, Ben. Have you ever taken a selfie of yourself? Have you ever gone this route?
I have, but I've never published it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would not, by the way, I would not be able to publish any picture after crashing the plane. I wouldn't be able to deal with the phone. I would be a wreck.
Yeah, I'd be heading to the bar, not. That's where I'd be going. Find me a cocktail somewhere as opposed to pulling out the cell phone, but to each their own.
Yeah, I like the point that was made that this woman just survived a plane crash. Oh, yeah. She should be entitled to take a photo. This is a day that she, of course, will never forget for the rest of her life, nor will anyone else who was on that plane.
Yeah.
I think people have been doing this for a long time. They just haven't been calling them selfies. Yeah, you know, right. I think we've all been taking pictures of ourselves or perhaps documenting these things. We just never really
shared it with the world.
Well, the picture of the plane is pretty dramatic because its front end is touching the ground, and we don't normally see that happen.
All right, Ben, Jeff, thank you. We'll leave the discussion there. The What's Hot discussion does continue online. Find that page at tmj4.com/hot.
Well, coming up.